starting in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Disney Sorcerers Arena. This is episode 2 of the Friends on the Other Side podcast. We did one a little bit ago with Ludgate from Disney Titans, and now we're going to focus it right here in our own club of Black Spire. That is Cubs fan Black Spire. One of the, I think we're still in the top 10 of clubs in the game. And today I've brought in our illustrious leader at this point, since Mr. Cubs has graciously bowed out and handed the reins over. That is Roarin. And then we have our resident Mr. Whale, the one and only true. Guys, what's going on today? How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome. So, tell me a real quick note, as far as community in this game, what do you guys feel about community, and as far as content? Do you guys enjoy content that comes out in conversations about the game, or do you feel like because so little is coming out in the game, it's getting a little repetitive if you pay attention to it?
It is a little repetitive that I've found with all the new events that come out. It's just kind of the same thing. Beat the tiers, you get shards, repeat, rinse and repeat, get a chest, unlock shards. But there's nothing to do with these characters.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. I early on, I felt like there was a lot of hype specifically around progressing in the Towers of Endurance game mode and trying to, move along and try different variations of different teams and strategizing around it. I know a lot of people didn't like that mode. I personally loved it around launch time because it did, especially in the club, like it brought on a lot of discussion and everybody's kind of working together to try to complete those towers. After I finished those, I really just felt like since then, even with the release of the new Stitch event, I was super excited because they talked about, a new game mode, and it just turned out to be Tower of Endurance, limited time, and you have to spend to get to level 2.
Yeah, I would say, from what I've seen a little bit in the community, that the Stitch event, for many people who whaled a decent amount, and I would consider myself up until that point one of them, it really killed me. Like, I didn't even want to whale the way I did to even unlock, like, Bubbles and, what's his name? Gantu. Like, and I know, True, I think you got him up to 7 stars, right?
I did not. So I was one of the few people that did it before they fixed the requirement. But I did get him to 5-star.
Look at the controversy in this game. Some of the decisions that have been made by developers. And Roarin, you mentioned Towers and Blue Fairy Magic, and all that came with that.
Oh, yeah.
That some of the missteps that have continuously popped up. So it is a case of the game starting out real strong. Everyone was happy. It felt really good, but it feels like there has not been as much progress as we would want, which leads me kind of into the first question is to whale or not to whale. And as I mentioned before, up until the Stitch event, I was a whale. I whaled out on Zurg. I was one of the smart people who whaled out on Toy Story, obviously. And I was one of the first people that I know of who whaled out on Hero and got him to, 7 stars. But it's gotten to the point in the game where as long as you're at the top of your tournament shard, and by top I mean top 10 because the rewards from 10 to 1 aren't that insanely different, especially if you've been using that currency to get the characters you need. As long as you're within that range, once you have a solid team for that, and with how little the game kind of rotates, it doesn't feel like there's a necessity to whale on everything anymore, because you have solid teams for Club Conquest. There's just not a variety to use these teams. There's not a meta that shifts and rotates, and here's a counter to this and here's a counter to that. So I have cut back. The only things I'm really going to whale on are if I see a character like Hero that is obviously a very good character, cool, I'll do that. Or truly, I'll whale on the gear packs, the gear 6 or the tier 6 or tier 5 packs, and that's about it. True, as our resident whaliest whale, how are you making that determination right now?
I mean, right now it's just kind of like we're in that end game, like how you were saying about the tournament shard. There's really only one team that can compete with that, which is Frozen right now. And Hero, like you were saying, just made that team even more oppressive and just the better team, probably the best team right now. So like right now, like wailing for Bubbles, like Bubbles is good, but he's better in Frozen, which goes along with being the top
Yeah.
in your shard, and you can't be in the top 10 if you're not running Frozen right now currently.
To be fair, I'm in number 4 and I'm not running Frozen. To be fair, but that's just because I'm that sort of guy. I've been the different.
Well, in
guy
my
since the
shard,
beginning.
it's all Frozen.
It's all
The
Frozen.
top 20 people are Frozen.
Yeah, mine is too. So for myself, I haven't spent since Frozen came out, other than you almost have to buy VIP if you're going to play the game daily because
It makes it
it's
go
just
quicker.
obnoxious, dude. I was like, I'm not going to do this, and then I lasted like 2 hours on the first day without having it. You can't sim your challenges. You have to wait in between. Like it's just like that's a huge gripe that I have is locking basic quality of life stuff behind spending. I think that's stupid. But I haven't spent since Frozen, and I'm still like I'm not even full Gear 7 yet. I have Elsa and Dash Gear 7 because I haven't been spending, and I sit around 4 or 5, and I climb no problem still just because of how stupid the AI is with Frozen. So I didn't spend on Hero, I didn't spend on Lilo and Stitch, and I'm still doing fine. I don't think until there's a new team that competes with Frozen regularly, I don't think that there's a reason to spend anymore.
I'll ask you this, Roran. If Hero came back around in the same way he came around before, would you wail on him since he has now been a proven commodity that can make teams better anywhere he goes?
No, because there's nothing else to. I mean, here's the thing: the rewards in Conquest do not justify the amount of effort that it takes to win when you're up in the top 10, or even the top 20, maybe even the top 50. I don't know what it's like to be near the bottom of the top 50. Our club has hovered in between top. We were all the way up into the top 5 at one point, all the way down to top 30ish. I think right now we're just out of the top 10.
Gotcha.
And the amount of effort that it takes to win a conquest, especially if you have the other two clubs teaming up against you, is astronomical, and the rewards are terrible. So I personally, unless it becomes impossible for me to climb to get my payout every day, at least in the top 5 is where I like to finish, I don't see a need to spend on another character, simply because the only other thing that I'd be using it for is conquest, and the rewards aren't worth it, and I'm still useful in Conquest with just a 3 solid teams, which I already have.
Gotcha. And we've mentioned the overshadowing issue with a lot of the content in this game as far as PvP content goes, and it's the Frozen issue. And I'm not meaning to say that like Frozen's a bad team. It was the first legendary event. It should be a cohesive team that is powerful. But taking this example of Frozen, you got 5 characters, 4 if you minus Olaf, are almost exactly the same as if you were to take the team of the Incredibles team. 1 second, guys. Daniel, if you're going to do that, please go to your room. Turn it down. Thank you. Children, we'll cut that out. No, you know what? I'll leave that in the podcast. I don't even care. Why not? But you can almost completely correlate Frozen and like the Incredibles, or even Toy Story for that matter. You've had 3 of these full set teams, but it feels like Toy Story, they kind of went blah. It didn't work out, and I hated that I wailed on them. That was such a waste of money.
Yeah.
Incredibles kind of took it a step up. Like, okay, well, we got Dash. Cool. Violet.
That's all you needed, though.
Yep, that's all you needed.
Incredibles was objectively the best team in the game
until Frozen.
Until Frozen. Yeah, it was
Yes.
Incredibles and Kingdom, and Incredibles won that matchup.
Exactly. And then the crazy thing is, I'm wondering if Glue almost went. They saw like Incredibles. It's like everyone got Dash, and it's like still not what we want. better make Frozen really good. And I wonder if they turn that dial like too much. And I don't know if there's an internal testing team. I think Meathead said a couple of times or made reference to they kind of do some. It wasn't a very convincing argument from what I saw, but it almost feels like they took that dial and went too much, and now nothing competes with it very well. So my question is, we've seen things like Scrooge McDuck has now gotten a buff to make him more effective. Bubbles with his ability to remove taunts. Hero, which in theory could get out ahead of them and block things. They're doing all these little pieces that seem like they're trying to combat Frozen, but it almost feels like any of these pieces that were built to combat Frozen, you could just stick in Frozen itself and make it better. So what are you guys' thoughts about a meta shift? Should there be a team that should be almost designed back to beat Frozen, which would encourage maybe a Frozen player to rearrange a little bit or allow a new team to come in and say, okay, Frozen's been beat. Well, now we have C team to come in and beat the other team. So you, as much as an ABC meta kind of sucks, it's better than A is better than B, C, D, and the rest of the alphabet. What are you guys' thoughts?
It's better than mirror matchups for sure.
Yeah, Rowan, why don't you go first on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I do. I think that at some point it's going to have to be something. What I would like to see done is I would like to see them dial Dash back as a plug and play and tune up Incredibles as a full team to make Incredibles better and make Dash perform better strictly with Incredibles, so that you're forced to use Olaf and Frozen or somebody else that's plug and play, probably because Olaf is pretty bad. Or even just buff Olaf and make the team cohesiveness or cohesion better, so that you have a little bit more balance there. And then I think that eventually we're going to see another legendary event come out where it's going to be a team that's on a similar power level as Frozen that was built to counter them, and that's fine. What I would like to see though is, again, if you're going to do that, if you're going to release a team that is supposed to be the new shiny hot thing, they need to have some type of weakness, and that's the problem with what they did to spells, is that spells were the one loophole. They were the one wild card where if you were a little bit outmatched power wise or gear wise, you might be able to time a spell correctly and flip the match. And making spells half or a third as strong as they once were really neutered the capability of flipping a match where you were behind. So I think that I would like to see a team that comes out that's on par with or better than Frozen. I'd like to see Dash nerfed as a plug and play, Incredibles buffed, and then I think that brings Kingdom back into the mix too as a free to play option, or even Downtown Villains, maybe give them a buff so that they can compete at a higher level. And I think that that's healthy for the game to have 4 or 5 teams, one counters one and one counters the other, rather than just having Frozen mirror matches all the time.
All right. And then, True, what are your thoughts as somebody who has, both of you have actually invested quite heavily in Frozen? Do you think it's time for a change, something to come out where it's like, we need to move on from this boringness?
Well, the thing is, I don't see Frozen being non-relevant. It's always going to be relevant. It's a legendary character.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't feel like it's going to get, dethroned until we get another legendary character.
Gotcha. And that's,
unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's kind of my feeling as well. And I think they even made mention of that in a post, and essentially, I think all this is Meathead, but I could be wrong. Is they said in a post that Elsa was supposed to be their first legendary thing, so they wanted to make it feel that way, and to that point, they certainly exceeded. Whether or not that's a healthy way for the game to go, I don't know. I think what they did with Frozen, they took it to Kingdom extremes, which is Kingdom is really good at going ahead and being faster than you, but also slowing you down at the same time. Well, Frozen is faster than you, and then if you have a full Frozen team, you have objectively the best tank in the game, who you never gonna get out behind, or at least not easily. So they've stopped you there.
Yeah, might as well be a free taunt, even though it's technically not. Might as well be.
Yes. So they've essentially said you can't get out ahead of this. then they've also added the speed that Kingdom has in the form of Ana as well, speeding up the clocks, so it essentially slows you down too. The ability for Ana to silence, or Elsa to silence, the ability to offense down. They've given it all the tools necessary to just win. Like, it does not have a weakness.
I will say though that they did a really good job, I felt anyways, with Elsa specifically. Like, for a legendary character, the animations are great. Even the costume was great. The reskin on the spell was great. If you bought the skin, I feel like she's very strong, but she has weaknesses. She's pretty squishy. Like, I think the balancing of Elsa was very well done.
Agreed.
Being that she was the marquee character, I think that the balancing of the team was actually fairly well done. The thing that makes Frozen unbearable is the plug and plays. Is the plug and plays that go with them, either hero or dash. It's not Frozen as a whole, Yeah, or both.
Well, I would almost say this. I would almost say the biggest problem is Kristoff. I really do feel that way, because if you can't, even with, say Kristoff didn't taunt in the way he did, and it was just a regular taunt, there was no speed up, he had to taunt on his turn. He's obviously going to be slower. He's going to be like a Simba or a Mordu. At that point, you can get a Kingdom team or a Dash, any team with Dash, or even a Zerg. And if you can get out ahead of Kristoff, you can take care of at least one character that could be a problem. And that's not even that overpowered, because you have things like a Golden Hammer that can bring it back. It's just, with Kristoff, essentially, as you said, Ron, being a pre-taunt, and with the way they did things with spells, like, it's so hard to get out ahead. So unless you get lucky with like a Scrooge McDuck, or unless you have a hero that makes like a bubbles go relatively quickly, like, nothing's going to outspeed that taunt. And by the time you get around to a character that can take away that taunt, how close is Elsa to rocking your face off? Or how many 7 to 10K hits have you taken from Sven at that point?
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I feel like, again, I feel like Kristoff, maybe the most broken thing about him is the guaranteed crit with his taunt, specifically to dash.
Yes.
I think that's the problem is Frozen was created around Elsa's kit. It's supposed to be the slow ramp up, and then if you let them ramp up, you're dead, right?
Yes.
And there are ways through the taunt. Like, when I climb an arena now, I have to, or when I climb in Sorcerers Tournament, I have to bring Mortal Potion to get through the taunt. And it works. It's fine. But it only works because I have dash and I charge my spells instantly because of the guaranteed crit.
Yep.
So again, I feel like the overall tuning of the team is fine, minus they obviously didn't think about the interaction of, if I give Dash a guaranteed crit, he's going to auto 10 stacks and get 2 turns before anybody else in the whole match.
Yeah.
And probably kill at least one of your characters, maybe 2. That should have been nerfed the week that they were released.
Yeah, Dash is by far the silliest character in the game. He's the only character in this game I feel needs some sort of nerf. And I think I talked about this with Ludgate, was essentially make Dash on multi-hits. He does 2% less. It was like 2 or 3% less damage for each non-incredible teammate on your team. Like, so if you were playing with Frozen, he's getting, minus, it was like either 8 or
20%.
Yeah, minus 20% damage. Like I think that's fair. He's still quite good, and he just encourages you to play him in freaking, what's it called? The Incredibles. Which is where he's supposed to be. But if they ever nerfed Dash, the outcry from people who have spent on him. The absolute outcry.
Came around twice.
It's true.
It's been a while since he's been out.
I guess. I suppose maybe if they did it like initially when you were talking about Roaring, like, I certainly think I would have been like, well, god damn it.
Yeah. I mean, it would go over like the Blue Fairy Magic thing, right? But I think too that if they nerf Dash as a solo character but buff the Incredibles, I feel like people would be understanding of that. It's pretty widely regarded right now that Dash is kind of the only character in the game that's just obviously unbalanced. Yeah, obviously unbalanced. Absolutely. There's arguments to be made about other characters, but he's far and away
Well, I
So there's
don't.
no argument.
There is no.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't.
no
I don't
argument.
straight up lose to just Elsa. I don't straight up. You could put Elsa in a Kingdom team. I'm not going to straight up lose to it. I'm not going to straight up lose to just Zerg. I can straight up lose to just Dash destroying my face.
Yep.
Yep.
Like so, Dash is a thing. But speaking of teams, we've had some buffs and we've had some things into the game, and we're talking about a Gizmo Duck and the Tech Tag. Now, a couple things on that. I have not gotten Gizmo Duck. I have no play experience. I've seen some people play with him, but my impression of Tech in general is, if you're running a Tech team, don't put Syndrome and Demona in it. It's not worth it. I don't understand that for right now. It's clearly half all of these Tech characters for the most part are downtown heroes as well. So make a Tech downtown hero team so that way you can use Golden Hammer to great effect. Gizmo Duck's kit actually looks really good. I actually really think it's pretty good. And now that Hero, in theory, is finally working, and I'll make a little caveat here. How funny is it that when they discovered this bug, not only was his big hero, one of the tags not working, so it wasn't working fully with Tech, but how funny was it that it was also applying his speed buff to all teammates? Did you guys catch that?
I actually didn't catch that. After all the times I played with Hero, I never even noticed
Mate
that.
had put it in his thing.
I know. I saw his post. I just never noticed that everyone else was getting it.
It's like
except Hero.
It's like, how are you gonna? Which I think lends credence to the. I don't think anyone's play testing these things. I just don't.
Not internally, I don't think.
No,
honestly.
which is a problem. Like a game, something should be done for that. But regardless, Hero is now working. He is now consistently getting out ahead where he needs to be. He's getting out ahead of Frozen teams, or not the Frozen team, sorry, or the Kingdom teams. I mean, speed in this game is already messed up, and I think my understanding was just like it only goes up to 100%, and then if you're both at full turn meter at the same time,
a coin flip. Yeah, I don't really understand that either.
It's like, why can't it just be, if I have 140% and you have 135, why can't I just go first?
Yeah.
Anyway, tangent, guys, tangent. But these things are working, and I do think the buffs are cool. I like what they did to Calhoun. She's now viable in some way.
Cora, I found, is actually really good right now.
Cora carried me for like the first 3 weeks of the game. I bought that the initial pack where they gave you, the whatever entry level $20. You got the guaranteed carry. Yeah, that one. I pulled Cora from that twice. So I had like a 4 or 5 star Cora in week 1.
Right.
And she carried me through everything. So I like Cora.
So I think
she's really good right now.
Is her damage up to par? Like, are what they saying? Like, she's the premier damage dealer team. Is she dealing like good
for
damage?
Tech? Yes. I mean, she's not dealing dash damage. I don't think anyone is. Right, maybe Zerg.
But is it like Kingdom level damage of like?
Oh, I would say yeah.
I mean, and that has to.
And she has.
Go ahead, Drew.
And she has a self revive.
Right, and that has to be the. I keep cutting you off, man. We're gonna get better at this.
And there's a bug where it keeps proccing if you revive her with hammer.
Of course it does, because this wouldn't be complete without the bugs.
Exactly.
But and that was my impression. I think that has to be the measuring stick, and that's actually what I'm working on right now. Is I'm doing a free to play account with the express purpose of getting a Kingdom team up to like star level 5. Like gear 5 for just testing purposes for new characters, because I think that's a very good medium to kind of look at a team or characters. Like, if it's all even, this kind of works. It has some sort of potential. I don't think you can use Frozen that way, because Frozen is just Frozen. We've already established that. But if a team can run against Kingdom, to good effect at equal star levels, I think it's got a good chance within the game. And just reading the kicks, I haven't leveled up or anything because I don't got that kind of gold in my life. It feels like it can, especially with the speed that comes from Hero. And have you guys had any more experiences with them at all?
It's hard for me to test Tech because I don't have them maxed out, and I'm in the the higher live PvP, so it's really hard to see their full potential. It's just Frozen's frozen live PvP.
Well,
That's
I'm in
all
the
it is
same
for me.
boat. I didn't spend on them, and I'm also up in
right.
whatever the
Yeah,
top is,
Grand
Grandmaster
Champion or
Grand Champion, yeah, and so it's just frozen or bots. That's
yeah.
it.
And I think people on that note discount how valuable the challenging a friend mechanic can be, because sure, PvP it doesn't work out because obviously there's no AI involved, but being able to challenge a friend or a clubmate in that way is exactly the same as what you're going to face in Club Conquest. It's exactly the same as you're going to face in Tournament. It's the same AI, so I think people are not using it as effectively. We have a gentleman who just joined the club. I can't remember. It starts with a V, I believe, but he has a very solid, 6 to 7 star, level 55 complete kingdom team with stones. Like, and that is a good testing measure for a team that could go into, say, a club conquest or a sorcerers tournament. So that's what I've actually been using for testing. And one of the reasons I'm doing this account is if I can set that up and people can be like, okay, I can test against this and get a barometer, I think that's going to be a helpful thing. Obviously, with if they could ever induce just a PvP mode where I can challenge you, Roar, and say, I'm going to pick this team, you're going to pick this team, and let's do it, that's great. But I don't think we're going to see that for a long time. But even if you haven't tried it, you've probably looked over the kits. What are your thoughts on the new Gizmo Duck and Company and also tech in general? This new tag and now another tag that can be affected directly by speed leadership.
Well, Gizmo's really good. I believe it's Gizmo that can purge on his basic, which is
it is
just good in any situation. And all the buffs they gave to what was it, Korra, Darkwing, like all those were good. Like giving a mass blind to the adjacents is really good right now. Because like how Dumbo was before it got nerfed, like that was game changing.
I'm waiting for Sally to be game changing. She's still not getting enough love. But
yeah,
I mean that was mine. And then Roran, you said you played with Korra quite a bit. I mean, is she? I mean, she was pretty good pre-buff, at least early mid game, right? So there's
I think that there's some merit to a Downtown Heroes team in Conquest, as like maybe like a 3 spot or a 4 spot. So I think that she and that team will have some viability in Conquest for sure. I think that they did a pretty good job. Overall, man, I feel like if there's one positive thing that I can say about this game and about their teams, like they do a pretty good job being semi-creative with the kits. The animations are always really good. Like all the tools are there for this game to succeed. They just dropped the ball in a lot of other spots, which is unfortunate, but it's not like it's too far gone. Like I don't think people should be running for the hills and quitting it.
Gotcha. And then that actually you led me right into the next one. Finishing up, since we're approaching that half-hour mark, we hear a lot about the negatives in the game. This bug, that bug, bring us more stuff, this, that, and that's natural for those of us who play games, because I think we're just inclined to almost be that way. So I want to end this with, and Roran just kind of did it, was a positive in the game. And you're saying, Roran, a positive for you is that for the most part, they're getting teams cohesiveness right, and there's viability to these teams, at least in some way, shape, or form. Am I summarizing that about correctly?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of positives. Sorry, True, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think there's a lot of positives in the game. They do a great job with animation. They have a great platform. They have a great IP. I think the reason why people are so up in arms about it is because they definitely picked an IP that a lot of people are passionate about. Disney would not be as, globally successful as they are if people were not as passionate about them as they are. So when you pick something as polarizing and popular as Disney or Star Wars or Marvel, expectations are high, right? We see that in all 3 of these games. And unfortunately for DSA, they're being compared to games that have been out significantly longer than them and have gone through similar ruts. So again, I feel like all of the tools are there. I think Meathead is a great guy. I think he's got, some great values, and I think that he is a good community representative. So I think that they have the foundation laid. I just think that they need to take a little bit more time to test things and polish things instead of knee-jerk nerfs and changes. And I think that they need to release some club content other than Conquest that will make the club cohesiveness. But as far as positives go, I think that there's a lot of them. My big ones would be the characters are polished and look nice at least. And number two for me would be that I think that Club Conquest is a great idea in theory. I think that they could make it better. But our club has had a lot of fun, and our club specifically is what keeps me coming back. We have a great group of guys, and so if anything, they've brought a good community together.
All right, True. What's your positive?
I mean, Warren basically summed it all up. But yeah, they're willing to, even revamp older kits that no one would use. Like no one was using Korra Darkwing Duck, 2 weeks ago, and now
Darkwing Duck was a meme.
Yeah, he was a meme, and they did Aladdin. They revamped them. They didn't even need it, and they still did. So hopefully they do a Toy Story, rework. That'd be great.
Oh,
but
all of us are praying.
Yeah, I think that was the first event I went hard on.
Me too, man, and I regret it every day of my life. I also regret now spending on Mulan because I maxed out Mulan when she came out, and now we're getting free shards every week.
That was the only character I did not wail on, and I was like, yes.
Absolutely, guys.
Yeah.
And I think mine is, even when mistakes are made, people are still talking more than what some were used to. There is a line of communication. It could be better, but there's a line of communication. And then my other thing is, they are making characters immediately farmable in some cases. Frozen, albeit just to make sure you can get Elsa, but you can farm Frozen. Like right now in my Sorcerers tournament team, I run Anna and Kristoff as a duo just because they work well and not the rest of Frozen. So you can farm those. Gantu and Bubbles are farmable. So, and they keep shifting things around. As you said, Korra and Calhoun got moved down to lower levels in the campaign, so you can farm them as well. So they are making things, even on a slow grind, available in many cases. So I think that's a very positive thing, instead of having to wail on a character and then if you want free to play, 3 months down the line in every case. So I think that's my biggest positive of this game that I like seeing. I hope they continue. So with that being said, guys, we are a little bit over the half-hour mark. That's going to wrap it up for today. True and Ron, thank you for joining me today. Looking forward to doing some more of these guys. My name has been Will DSA. I'm going to let the guys say good night, and then we'll catch you guys on the other side. Say good night, guys.
Yeah, take it easy, guys.
It was fun. Thanks, man.
Yep. Take care, guys.